Audio transcript recovered from body cam, Commander Vance. Mission, perimeter check, Sector 4, time 0830 local. Commander Vance. Control, this is Epsilon 9. We have visual on the anomaly boundary. Markers are... Wait. Simmons, check the Geiger counter. What is the reading? Simmons. I am looking at it, sir, but... The numbers. They do not make sense. Commander Vance. Is it high or low? Read the dial. Simmons. No, I mean... I do not know what these symbols mean. I do not remember how to read this. Commander Vance. It is a standard decimeter. You were trained on it last week. Stop joking. Simmons. I am not joking. Why am I wearing this vest? It is heavy. My shoulders hurt. I want to go home. Commander Vance. Pull it together. We are pattern walkers. We are... Commander Vance. Control? Control. This is... I do not know the call sign. I cannot remember the extraction code. Why am I holding a rifle? I am a history teacher. I was grading papers. I was just grading papers. Simmons. Sir? Who are you? Commander Vance. I do not... Command! We are aborting! I do not know who these men are. Automated system alert. Biometric identity mismatch. User credentials revoked. Transmission terminated. Upon arrival at the logging site designated Timber 7 in northern Ontario, the recovery team found the environment in a state of disturbing normalcy. The heavy machinery, feller bunchers and skidders, was left idling in the clearing. The diesel generators were active, powering the camp lights. Inside the mess tent, coffee was still steaming and mugs and plates of half-eaten breakfast were warm to the touch. There were no signs of struggle, violence, or panic. The camp had not been abandoned. It had been forgotten mid-motion. The missing crew was located 2 kilometers south of the exclusion zone boundary. They were not injured. They were wandering in a loose group, examining the forest with the curiosity of tourists. When approached, they did not recognize the Foundation recovery team, nor did they recognize the company logos on their own uniforms. They appeared entirely unaware of how they had arrived in the forest. The subjects display a condition best described as selective retrograde procedural amnesia or a specialized fugue state. Subject 01, a foreman with 20 years of experience in the logging industry, is physically healthy. His muscle density, lung capacity, and hand calluses are consistent with decades of manual labor. However, the subject exhibits a total cognitive disconnect from his physical reality. When presented with a chainsaw during the intake interview, he held it by the blade, cutting his palm. He lacks the cognitive history to operate the equipment his body was built for. He is a veteran vessel piloted by a novice mind. The neurological scans show no trauma, lesions, or chemical influence. It is as if the neural pathways for his trade simply never formed. Agent Kowalski. Mr. Miller, I need you to look at your identification card. Subject. I keep telling you, that's not me. My name is Jacob. I'm 19 years old. I'm supposed to be in dorm 4B. Agent Kowalski. You are 34 years old, Jacob. You have a wife in Sudbury and 2 children. Subject. I've never been to Sudbury. I have a chemistry final on Tuesday. I was just studying. I was sitting at my desk and then I was in the snow. Why am I wearing these boots? Why do my hands look like this? These aren't my hands. They're old. Agent Kowalski. Calm down. Look at the date on the phone. Subject. 2024? No, that's impossible. That's 10 years away. Where did the time go? I didn't live those years. I didn't do any of this. Flagging file for immediate review. We have a confirmed discrepancy between physical evidence and personnel records. The subjects have not just lost memory, they have reverted to a prior cognitive save state while their bodies remained in the present. The 10 years of experience claimed by their employment records are missing from their minds. Archiving file as anomalous. Access restricted. Special containment procedures. Exclusion zone. Delta 10 is defined by a circular perimeter with a radius of 5.0 kilometers centered on the anomaly's geographic anchor point. This perimeter is to be secured by physical fencing and automated motion sensors. Under no circumstances are personnel permitted to cross the event horizon, located at the 1.2 kilometer mark. Observation is restricted to hardwired analog optical systems. The use of digital recording equipment, wireless transmission devices, or autonomous drones within the inner zone is prohibited. Following the events of Incident 1000 Alpha, Any individual who confirms entry into the active zone must be detained immediately upon exit. These subjects are to be held in Quarantine Wing B for a mandatory Level 5 causality audit. This process involves a cross-reference of the subject's current biographical statements against deep storage records protected by Scranton reality anchors. If a discrepancy is found, specifically if the subject's personal timeline has been altered to preclude their employment by the Foundation, they are to be treated as a containment breach. SCP-10000 is a localized temporal anomaly. To an observer inside the zone, the flow of time appears consistent with standard universal constants. Atmospheric readings, background radiation, and biological decay rates match the surrounding boreal forest. However, the anomaly functions on a principle of retroactive exchange. For every unit of time a complex system exists within SCP-1000, an equivalent duration is excised from that system's past. This process is designated chronological foreclosure. The excision occurs instantaneously upon the subject crossing the threshold to exit the anomaly. Crucially, the anomaly does not remove random intervals. It targets high entropy moments, periods of significant data density in the subject's history. These are moments of critical learning, trauma, biological development, or binary decision-making. The anomaly effectively charges the subject for their time in the present by liquidating the assets of their past. We need to correct a misunderstanding among the containment staff. The anomaly is not eating memories, it is restructuring causality. If you spend 10 minutes inside the zone, you do not simply forget 10 minutes of your life. The anomaly locates a 10-minute window in your past that was pivotal to your current state and removes it from reality. Consider the load theory. If a subject spends an hour inside, SCP-1000 will not take an hour spent sleeping or watching television. It will take the hour they spent defending their thesis. It will take the hour they spent proposing to their spouse. It targets the structural columns of the subject's identity. When that column is removed, the timeline collapses and rebuilds itself to accommodate the absence. If the thesis defense is removed, the degree is never awarded. If the degree is never awarded, the subject is never hired by the Foundation. When they walk out of that forest, they are not a researcher with amnesia. They are a stranger who has trespassed on a military base. The sunk cost is literal. You pay for your presence here with the events that made you who you are. Test log 100001. Subject D 19022. Duration 15 minutes. Mission parameters. Subject D 19022 is instructed to walk 100 meters past the event horizon, sit on a marked stone for 15 minutes, and return. Subject is equipped with the standard analog chronometer. At time 0, subject crosses the threshold. Telemetry is lost as expected. Visual contact is maintained via telescope. At 15 minutes, subject stands and begins return to the perimeter. At 15 minutes and 2 seconds, subject crosses the threshold again. Recovery transcript. Dr. Aristhrene says D 19022, report status. D 19022 replies, "Who? Why are you calling me that?" Dr. Aristhrene asks, "State your name and serial number." D 19022 answers, "My name is Michael. I do not have a number. I was driving to work. I stopped at the light. Why am I in the woods?" Causality audit report. Subject D 19022. Analyst. Raisa Archivist J. Chen. Discrepancy detected. Deep storage record protected. Subject D 1902 Michael V. was incarcerated in 2019 following a conviction for vehicular manslaughter. On February 14th at 8:45 a.m., the subject ran a red light, resulting in a fatal collision. He was sentenced to 20 years and subsequently recruited for the D-Class program. Current timeline reality. Post-exposure, public records, court documents, and police databases now indicate that on February 14th, 2019, Michael V. successfully braked at the red light. The collision never occurred. The victim is alive. Michael V. continued to his place of employment. He was never arrested, never convicted, and never entered the D-Class system. The event is a non-event. Analysis: the 15 minutes D 19022 spent inside SCP-10000 were paid for by the excision of the 15-minute interval surrounding the accident. In the new causality, the accident is a non-event. The man standing in the containment chamber is legally and historically an innocent civilian. Security Directive Immediate Action. Authorization O5 Command. Subject status Paradox Entity. The individual formerly known as D-19022 possesses knowledge of Foundation assets, but has no clearance or contractual obligation to the organization in the current timeline. Releasing the subject is impossible due to information security risks. Amnestics are insufficient, as the subject's presence in a secure facility is logically inexplicable to external law enforcement. Order: subject is to be terminated. The paradox must be resolved by the removal of the divergent element. Test: Log 100005, Inanimate Complexity. Asset: Autonomous Rover Unit 73. Duration: 4 hours. Hypothesis: to determine if chronological foreclosure affects non-biological systems with complex assembly histories. Procedure: Unit 73 is deployed to collect soil samples. Mission clock set for 4 hours. Observation: Unit 73 operates normally within the zone. At the 4-hour mark, the unit turns to exit. Upon crossing the threshold, the unit suffers a catastrophic failure. It does not explode, it separates. Screws, chassis plates, wiring looms, and sensor arrays fall to the ground in a heap of constituent parts. Engineering Forensics Report. We analyzed the debris. The failure was not due to stress or damage. The components are in pristine condition. The 4-hour duration of the mission corresponded exactly to the final assembly phase of Unit 73 at the manufacturing plant 3 years ago. The anomaly excised the specific interval where the screws were tightened and the wires were soldered. Retrospective analysis of the factory logs confirms the alteration. The logs now show a 4-hour power outage on the assembly line on that date. Unit 73 was never completed. The pile of parts on the perimeter line is consistent with a work in progress that was never finished. Researcher note: Dr. Aristhreen. This confirms the UN building effect. We cannot send drones because the anomaly attacks their creation. We cannot send cameras because it attacks their recording media formatting process. We are blind because any tool complex enough to see inside requires a history to exist, and that history is the currency the anomaly demands. We are forced to rely on the only optical system simple enough to have no manufacturing debt that matters: polished glass and the human eye. And as we are learning, the human eye is attached to a brain that cannot afford the cost of looking. We must accept the strategic reality. We cannot contain SCP-10000 from the inside. We can only contain the world from entering it. Following the catastrophic disassembly of Rover Unit 73 and the subsequent collapse of the Alpha perimeter fencing, the Engineering Division has concluded that any complex structure placed within the exclusion zone is unsustainable. The fencing failed not because of physical stress, but because the 3 weeks the installation crew spent building it were excised from their histories upon their exit. In the revised timeline, the crew was never contracted, the materials were never ordered, and the fence was never built. The physical structure simply ceased to exist because its causal foundation was removed. We are fighting a war against a retro-causal erosion of labor. Every man-hour invested inside the zone is a man-hour that will eventually be deleted from the record. Protocol Update 1000. Delta, effective immediately. 1. Establishment of Exclusion Zone Delta. The 10. The containment radius is expanded to 5.0 kilometers. This creates a buffer of ignorance between the civilian world and the anomaly. No permanent structures are to be erected within this buffer. Patrols are to be conducted on the outer rim only. 2. Prohibition of digital recording. All digital observation equipment is banned. Digital media requires complex formatting and encoding histories which are highly susceptible to high entropy targeting. Observation is restricted to direct optical line of sight using non-electronic telescopes and binoculars manufactured prior to 1980 to minimize manufacturing complexity debt. 3. The Causality Audit Mandate. Any personnel, regardless of rank or clearance, who breach the 1.2-kilometer event horizon must be detained immediately upon exit. Security teams are authorized to use non-lethal force to secure the returnee. The subject is to be held in the isolation wing while a Level 5 causality audit is performed. This involves querying the Foundation's deep storage database. a server cluster buried 3 miles beneath Site-01 and shielded by a lattice of Scranton reality anchors. These anchors preserve the true history of the timeline, immune to the shifts caused by SCP-1000. If the deep storage record called True History conflicts with the external reality called Current Timeline, specifically if the subject's employment history has been negated, the subject is to be processed as a civilian paradox entity. They are not to be debriefed. They are not to be allowed access to site terminals. They are strangers with Level 4 knowledge. Psychological evaluation. Transcript. Subject: Security Officer T. Graves. Incident: accidental exposure. 32 seconds. Officer Graves, let's talk about the item on your finger. The gold band. It's my wedding ring. I don't want to take it off. And who are you married to? Sarah Jenkins. We met at the coffee shop on the 5th. It was raining. I offered her my umbrella. Officer, we have checked the public records and your personnel file. There is no marriage certificate. Sarah Jenkins exists, but she is married to a man in Ohio. She has never been to this city. That's a lie. I remember the wedding. I remember the smell of the cake. I remember the dance. You were inside the anomaly for 32 seconds, Graves. The anomaly took those 32 seconds from 7 years ago when you walked into that coffee shop. In this timeline, you didn't walk in. You kept walking. You never offered the umbrella. You never met. Then why am I wearing the ring? If it never happened, why is the ring on my hand? Because the ring is matter. The anomaly edits causality, not gold. The universe has corrected the event, but the debris of the previous timeline remains. You are wearing a monument to a love that has been retroactively annulled. We have to confiscate it, Graves. It's a paradox object. Please, it's all I have left. I can feel the weight of it. If you take it, I won't know she was real. Ethics Committee Statement. Retroactive lobotomy. The ethics debate regarding the humane treatment of SCP-10000 victims centers on the definition of injury. When a D-class exits the zone missing a limb, we treat it as a medical emergency. But SCP-1000 inflicts an injury that is invisible and far more cruel. It performs a retroactive lobotomy of the self. We are observing subjects who have lost the formative traumas that built their character. We have staff members who enter as hardened, disciplined veterans and exit as soft, indecisive youths because the anomaly excised the years of military service that forged their discipline. They are not merely forgetting, they are being unmade. Is it humane to utilize personnel in a containment capacity when the cost of their service is the deletion of their identity? We are not asking them to risk their lives. We are asking them to risk the narrative arc of their existence. A death in the line of duty is a tragedy. A life that is edited into mediocrity is a horror. Medical log. Physiological chronodisplacement. Patient DINUS 9901. Exposure 48 hours. Subject 299901 entered the zone for a 2-day endurance test. Upon exit, the subject collapsed immediately. Radiological scans revealed a spontaneous systemic deossification of the lower tibia and fibula. The bone density in his legs reverted to that of a pre-adolescent state. Analysis. The 48 hours excised by the anomaly corresponded to a hospitalization period the subject underwent at 14 following a severe bicycle accident. In the original timeline, he spent 2 days in traction, during which his bones knit together with reinforced calcification. In the revised timeline, that hospitalization never occurred. The healing process was deleted. Consequently, his legs unhealed. The old fractures spontaneously reopened as if the accident had just occurred, but without the accompanying trauma event. The subject is currently in screaming agony from broken legs that, historically speaking, were never broken. This confirms that missing time has biological consequences. If the anomaly deletes a window of antibiotic treatment, the infection returns. If it deletes a window of puberty, the growth spurt is revoked. The body remembers the time it took to build itself, and SCP-1000 demands that time back. Incident Report 1000 Alpha. Subject: Researcher Elias Koji, Level 4 clearance. Incident type: Protocol breach and retroactive career cessation. At 1400 hours, during a routine sensor calibration at the zone edge, researcher Koji dropped a handheld Geiger array across a 1.2 kilometer threshold. Violating the no-entry directive, Koji crossed the line to retrieve the equipment. Dense underbrush and sudden disorientation common to the anomaly's interior prevented him from locating the exit vector immediately. He remained inside Exclusion Zone Delta 10 for exactly 58 minutes. Security log transcript, Gate 4 time 1458. Researcher Koji said, "Control, this is Koji. I have the sensor, requesting decon and re-entry." Gate security replied, "Copy that. Place your hand on the biometric scanner." Gate security added, "Scanner is not reading you. Try the badge." Researcher Koji responded, "Come on. The magnetics probably got scrambled inside. Just override it. You can see it is me." Gate security said, "Sir, the system is not saying scramble. It is saying access denied, unrecognized personnel. Stand by while I check the roster." Gate security continued, Control, I have a male subject at Gate 4 claiming to be Researcher Koji. I am looking at the site manifest. There is no Elias Koji employed at this facility. There never has been. The causality audit was initiated immediately while Koji was held at gunpoint in the airlock. The deep storage database confirmed the discrepancy. The 58 minutes Researcher Koji spent inside the anomaly were balanced by the excision of a 58-minute interval from May 12, 2011. On that date, in the original timeline, Elias Koji stood before a dissertation committee at MIT to defend his doctoral thesis on nonlinear temporal mechanics. It was a grueling, hour-long defense that secured his PhD and brought him to the attention of Foundation recruiters. In the revised timeline, the one created the moment he stepped out of the woods, Koji missed that defense. The anomaly deleted the event. Without the defense, he failed the program. He was never awarded his doctorate. Consequently, his application to the Foundation was automatically rejected by the recruiting algorithm in 2012. The situation escalated into a critical information breach. We had a subject in the airlock who possessed level 4 knowledge of containment protocols, knew the passcodes to the armory, and recognized every member of the security team. Yet according to the recorded timeline, he was an unemployed civilian who had never set foot in a secure facility. He was not an intruder. He was a ghost of a career that no longer existed. He was wearing a lab coat he had never earned. Researcher Koji was sedated and administered Class C amnestics to wipe his knowledge of the Foundation, which he technically never worked for. He was transported to his new baseline residence, a small apartment in Boston where, according to the new causality, he works as an assistant manager at a hardware store. The sensor he retrieved from the zone was recovered. It was worth $400. The cost of retrieving it was one of the brightest scientific minds of his generation. Final synthesis memorandum from Dr. Aristhrene, Re. Closure of Project 10,000. We have spent years treating SCP-10000 as a spatial hazard. We fenced it off like a minefield. This was a mistake. It is not a place that hurts you. It is a machine that edits you. The incident with Researcher Koji proves that we cannot win a war of attrition against this anomaly. It does not attack our bodies. It attacks our qualifications. It dismantles the sequence of events required for us to be capable of fighting it. If we persist, we will not die. We will simply wake up one day to find that we are not the Foundation anymore, but a collection of strangers who wandered into the woods, forgetting why we came. Updated procedures, final iteration. Absolute exclusion, no human entry is permitted, no exceptions. Analog only. Observation is limited to glass optics. The ignorance protocol. If the anomaly expands, we do not fight it, we retreat. We cannot secure what we cannot remember. File status closed, archival access restricted.